Hi, this is Belinda Calibriali, and this is Talking High Performance with Belle. So I'm making this podcast for people who want to live their best life, people who know that there's more in them, but they just don't know how to get it. So there's a gap, something's missing, I'm making it for them. As we continue our journey into Mindful Performance Month, I want to talk to you today about a topic that revolves around challenge that many of us face, and that's the challenge of making decisions with ease. And last week we spoke about how to go from chaotic to a calm state. And I spoke about 6 different strategies that we can use, whether it's embracing mindful moments and, taking those intentional pauses or prioritizing with purpose, because when you can do that, it's much, much easier to say no to what doesn't serve, or whether it's breaking down complex tasks so it doesn't feel overwhelming, creating a workspace that really inspires you, scheduling breaks, to help you, or even reflecting and reframing on what you can do better. All of these things help you to be more mindful. They help you to be less chaotic and more calm as you approach day-to-day living. And today I want to go one step further with that. And I want to talk to you about making decisions with ease, because quite often when I talk to clients, or the reason they initially come to coaching is because they really struggle with the day-to-day decisions and also bigger picture decisions. And when we're not really clear on our direction, it's really hard to navigate through the process to get us there. So if you think about yourself and you've found yourself sometimes wanting to strive for more, but settling for the familiar and sometimes unfulfilling, it's quite often because we're struggling in the decisions that we're making and we're struggling to know what is the next best move. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So if you haven't already subscribed, feel free to subscribe to the podcast so you can be the latest, so you can be the first, to know when an episode drops. But let's get into it. I want to talk to you firstly today about big picture thinking. So when we think about making decisions and we think about making decisions with ease, it's really important to know what is the big picture. So if you were to step back and contemplate the necessity of the decision, what you're making, think about it in the context of big picture goals. So if you were to know your big picture, then the decisions that you need to make to align every day or every week becomes a whole lot easier because you know where you're heading. So if the best version of you, and this is quite often what I ask my clients, if the best version of you was standing next to you right now, how would they approach this situation? What would they tell you to do? To be more courageous, to speak up, to keep your opinions to yourself. So always go, if you were thinking big picture and you were thinking about end goals, what would the best version of you tell you to do at the moment with regards to the decision that you need to make? So that's the first one, think big picture. The second one is pressing pause. And I spoke about this a little bit last week when we go from chaos to calm. But pressing pause is really, really important. And quite often we feel like we need to make a decision quickly, or we're really reactive in what we do. Whereas if we were to, take a break or sleep on it, the decision doesn't seem as hard in the morning. And so pressing the pause button is sometimes and quite often really necessary when you're unsure of the next best step to take. And this is even really important when we're tired. Pressing pause when we're tired, or going for that power nap, or not making that decision in that moment. So quite often we just need some quiet time, some time to quiet the mind or make decisions when we've got a little bit more energy, and it can make all the difference in the decisions that we make, and it can make all the difference in the ease with which we make those decisions. So that was point 2, press pause. Third point is define the intention behind your decisions. So when we're clear, and this is one of the habits that separates a high performer from the rest, they're really clear with 4 areas of their lives. They're clear on who they want to be as a person, how they want their relationships to look, how they want to be of service to others, and the skills that they need to develop in order to get to a certain point. So if you think about the decisions that you're trying to make, what's the intention for wanting to make that decision? Or what's the intention behind why you're struggling with that decision? So what are you aiming for? And here it's about really understanding what is your purpose? Like, what's the big purpose? And what are the decisions that you need to make to get to that? How do you want to show up personally? Is it a decision around an interaction? if you're clear on how you want to be and how your relationships, you want them to look, it's a bit easier to show up in that interaction. If it's a decision around a skill that you need to develop and you know that you won't get to this certain point unless you work on that skill, that can sometimes make it a lot easier as well. And think about an example that you can use or where you've applied this in your own life in the past. And I encourage you to really think about why are you leaning into this, or why is it hard? And quite often it becomes hard when we're unclear. So that's the third point. Get really clear on what is it that you want to achieve and how do you want to show up. The fourth point is to trust our intuition. So tune into our intuition, and quite often our bodies tell us the answer, and it's up to us to know, okay, this feels a little bit funny. Why? Is it because I'm fearful but excited, or is it because it just really doesn't feel like it's a decision that's aligned to me or that's aligned to my beliefs? And our intuition will often give us the answer that we're waiting for. So mindful decision makers, they're really trusting in the decision and in their intuition and in their instincts. And sometimes you can go, how did you come to that decision? They're like, I don't know. I just knew that that's what I had to do. I'm not really specific and clear on what was that exact point that got me to that decision, but I was just trusting my intuition. And you'll hear people that have done this time and time again and that have really leapt forward in courage and honored the struggle that they're feeling, that it becomes a lot easier to trust their intuition. And you know what? Sometimes we do make the wrong decision, but they trust that they've got the belief system that they can work it out. So trusting your intuition is a really, really important point, and quite often one that, we reflect back on and gone, oh, there was something in me that, I knew I shouldn't have done that, or I should have gone the other way, but I just didn't trust my gut. And you often hear people talking about trusting their gut all the time. So fourth point is trust your intuition. And the last point is define your path. And this comes back to clarity again, and take a moment to really go, what is the direction that I want to go in? What is the goal that I'm aiming for? Who is the person that I want to be? Whatever the decision is that you need to make. And, when we think about our long-term goals and we've got our path defined, the short-term decisions don't seem so hard anymore. They feel like, yep, if that's the goal, these are the next logical steps. And sometimes you might make a mistake in those steps, and that's okay. And you might even need to navigate. But if you're clear on this is the end goal, it's much easier to navigate your way forward. And sometimes this comes down, people want to leave their jobs, but they struggle to know, is the grass greener on the other side? And so they stay in a job that they quite often don't like or that doesn't align with their values. But when they can really define their path and go, okay, I want to have a good work-life balance. I want to work with people who are respectful of each other. I want to be in a team where the culture is great. All of a sudden, moving from one job to another might not seem as hard because you know that where you are now, you won't get certain things. Whereas going, okay, this is the path that I want for my life, and these are the decisions that I need to make to try and get me a little bit closer, becomes a whole lot easier. And quite often, if you think about where you want to be in 5 to 10 years, and then you reflect back to your current situation, it makes the decision easier as well. So, in 5 to 10 years, if you want to be in a job that's rewarding, that's fulfilling, that gives you a good work-life balance, where the culture's great, and then you go, okay, in this particular role now, am I going to get that? No. It becomes a lot easier to redefine the path and realign your priorities. So defining your path is super, super important. And it allows you to not only live a life that you're passionate about, but also one that you're proud of as well. So as we conclude today's episode on making decisions with ease, I encourage you to implement these practical steps into your decision-making processes, whether it's thinking big picture, pressing pause in order to move forward faster, clarifying your intentions, trusting your intuition, or defining your path. Having the mindful clarity and being able to do this mindfully in our day-to-day lives is super important to help us navigate decisions that we need to make with ease and with less uncertainty. So in our next episode, I'm going to delve into a topic that complements today's discussion, and that's about how to master stress to maximize performance. And stress often accompanies decision making, and so learning how to manage that is really crucial for achieving high performance. So until then, live a successful, purposeful, and fully charged life. Your coach, Belle.